My name is Jabari, and this is my story. I was born high up in the mountains by a small pond and a small herd. My mom, Kazro, my dad, Dapper Wolf, my siblings, Nikki, Aki, and Gray. Unknown was, well, unknown. They were there, but not for too long after I was born. My parents named me Jabari, which means fearless and strong. Only time would tell if I would grow into that name meaning. Dapper Wolf and Kazro were hoping to stay on this mountain until all of us grew big enough to travel to our next destination. However, our small pond started running dry, and big enough or not, it was time to make that journey. Now fully grown, we made our way down the mountain, slow and steady with our steps. You see, kudu aren't meant to be in the mountains. We're more made for flat terrain. One wrong step and legs will be broken. My first time down off the mountain, and I was able to really run without having to worry about falling off a cliff. It felt good to stretch my legs as I ran, to feel the wind rushing through my fur and over my body. My legs now strong and able to effortlessly bounce me into the air as though I had springs for legs. We found water in the most unlikely place for a kudu to be. The cave smelled strongly of lion. I didn't like that smell, and I was happy to be back out in the open. We grazed on the lush green grass, giving everyone time to regroup and be ready to travel again. The herd spoke of lions nearby. The thought of sharp claws digging into my skin shot a shiver through my body. I stayed extra aware, listening and keeping an eye on our surroundings. Now, when the herd leader, and also my father, comes leaping over the hill saying, "Run!" you don't ask questions, you run. I wasn't about to let a lion sink its claws into me. I took off like a flash along with the rest of the herd. I ran until I realized most of the herd was behind me. I stopped to catch my breath and be sure everyone was coming, getting a bite to eat while I waited. I watched as the herd bounded closer and closer, joining with them as they got to me. I was happy to see no lions followed behind them. We made our way through the hot, dry desert, the sun beating down on our backs. It made me thirsty and my mouth dry. All I wanted was to find water and feel the cold liquid as it traveled down into my stomach, cooling my body with every drink. It felt like forever, but we finally found ourselves at a murky pond filled with moss and debris. We were all so thirsty, nobody cared. Feeling so hot, I just shoved my whole head into the pond. The cool water felt amazing after being in that hot, dry desert. If a croc was in here, it would have grabbed me for sure, but I didn't care. I could smell food nearby, not just any kind of food, the best, most delicious kind of food you can find. I could also smell the disgusting smell of blood in the air, and could see a half-eaten zebra that lay nearby. I couldn't help but wonder if one of us would be on the menu next. I shuddered at the thought. I stood guard for a while, keeping watch as everyone rested and filled their bellies with food and water. The smell of blood and the sight of the carcass had put me on edge. Looking around, this did seem like the perfect place to get ambushed by some predator lurking nearby. I finally made my way down to the others. It was too hot to continue our journey during the heat of the day, especially after our time in the desert. We stayed near the pond, cooling off in the water and bedding down in the cool shade. Still on edge, I didn't want to lay down. However, I knew I would need rest and strength for the journey ahead. As the sun settled and the cooler air moved in for the night, we headed out again towards our next destination, our legs feeling strong again as we sprang through the air. I felt like I could run forever. After a while, we found ourselves in a valley filled full of bones and death. The skeletons were huge, and you could tell they had been here a while because the smell was old and musty. Nothing like that of the zebra we had shared a pond with the previous day. Just remembering the smell made me feel sick to my stomach. I knew one thing, though. Whatever killed these things was bad news, and I wanted nothing to do with that. A shudder sent chills down my spine. Everything in me told me we should turn around, find a different spot, but we kept going. We found a little cove with water and fresh grass to graze on. We all filled our bellies, and the others bedded down for the rest of the night. There was no way I was falling asleep, though. My thoughts kept going back to all of those bones we passed by. What were those things? How did they die? I stayed up grazing and keeping watch over the herd. Before the sun came up all the way, we made our way up the mountain, going higher where hopefully we'd feel a little safer. I wasn't sure anywhere would be safe here, though. We crossed these strange things that smelled of wood and swung as we walked across. I thought for sure it would fall and send me to my death at any second. I raced across them quickly, just in case. As we entered a cave-like structure, the smell of sulfur was strong in the air. As I went to walk across what looked like a very shallow puddle, I was surprised when I fell in, and it was hot. Thankfully not so hot that it burned me. The sun must really heat the water in here. Blech! Another zebra carcass, with that disgusting smell. Obviously, we weren't the only ones that had made their way up here. This carcass smelled older than the last one, though, and whatever killed it was long gone. We made our way through the cave and found ourselves up high on another ledge. Suddenly, it felt like home. We were just in time for the morning sunshine as the sun came up and started warming everything its warm light touched. It had been a long, sleepless night, and here in the morning sun, we were all able to truly relax and just enjoy the moment. It was here in this Death Valley that something strange started to happen to the herd. Instead of the herd growing bigger with new births, one by one, the herd members started to disappear. It started with Dapper Wolf, then Nikki, then Aki, till only Kazro and I were left. It was time to leave this cursed Death Valley. We quickly made our way out, and I was more than happy to leave this valley behind. I gave it one last look, hopeful to see at least one other of our herd members return, but they were gone. I ran and bounded after Kazro to catch up. A wave of relief rushed over me as we made distance between us and the Valley of Death. Kazro must have been happy to get out of there too, because we ran and ran, only stopping for a quick drink out of the pond we rested by just days prior. My legs tired, but we pushed on. And on, until my legs just couldn't run anymore. As we made it to some trees providing some much-needed shade, our legs collapsed. Exhausted, we both drifted off to sleep, neither keeping watch to be sure we were safe. Dreams of the valley haunted me. I must have been twitching in my sleep. I was thankful when Kazro woke me and said it was time to go. I pulled myself up, expecting my legs to still feel weak. I was relieved they were feeling sturdy under me again. We carried on our journey, feeling more refreshed than I had thought I would. We found another waterhole that looked like a prime spot to get snatched by a crocodile. I had never seen or experienced a crocodile before, but I had certainly heard the stories of others getting snatched. I wasn't about to become someone's meal. As we walked away from the water, we were surprised by a lioness right behind us. My first time actually seeing a lion, and they were smaller than I had thought. Not so scary looking. She did a bluff run at me, and I simply stood my ground. Perhaps I was growing into my name after all. She didn't seem interested after that, and went on her way, as did we, while keeping a wary eye on her. I seen some very tall animals with very long necks. Most interesting animal I've seen in my life yet. Kazro said they're called giraffes, whatever that is. We could see some of that delicious food not too far away from us, and we quickly made our way towards it, only to find a very aggressive beast had claimed it and chased us away. Kazro said it was a rhino. Whatever it was, I certainly didn't want to mess with it. Couldn't really blame it wanting to keep the best tasting food for itself. However, while it chased me, Khazro ate it all, and we both thought that was a bit funny. As we grazed nearby on the normal, not nearly as good tasting grass, I spotted a Leo run into the brush. I had a funny feeling it was going to try and ambush us. I warned Khazro, and we started moving away so it wouldn't be so easy. It did some fake attempts at us, and we again just stood our ground, not too worried about it. I watched in amazement as it climbed the steep rock wall, unlocking a new fear of Leos dropping on top of me and latching their sharp claws into my back. Nearby, I spotted a pack of hyenas coming back from getting water. Khazro also needed water, so we headed in their direction. I hoped they wouldn't try anything silly. However, as we walked in their direction, we did see something very silly. The hyenas were chasing the Leo, and the Leo was doing some kind of magical slide where it didn't look like they were running at all, and half their body was in the ground. I began to wonder if I had eaten something bad and was seeing things. As it tried to climb the wall, the hyenas kept knocking it down. Then it ran, or rather glided over the ground towards me. I decided I better get out of the way before I was the one on the menu. I was so focused on the hyenas and the Leo that I had forgotten we were going for water. Khazro came back to get me, wondering what the heck I was doing, I'm sure. This time, I stayed close and we just ran straight on through. As I leapt over the water, the fear of crocodiles washed over me and I scrambled out of the river as fast as I could. As Khazro drank, I stayed back. I didn't trust this water source either. Further up the river, I found a spot that I thought might be a little safer. It felt nice to finally quench my thirst. Until I fell in, that was. The bank was too muddy and slippery for my hooves to latch onto anything, and I started to panic that I couldn't get out. Khazro could hear my distress calls and came back to see what all the fuss was about. Once Khazro had calmed me down, I was able to get out just fine. Then I felt just a little silly. With the sun going down for the night, we chose to rest upon this rock. It had been a long day, and we were ready for a good night's rest. As the morning came, we drank from the river and set out to look for some breakfast, hoping to find some of that delicious tasting food and not just eat the boring old grass. We passed by a young water buffalo, and I wondered where its herd was. Suddenly, a lion pride came out of nowhere and we were under attack. Khazro was being chased by a large male, and I circled around to try and get it off of her. My plan worked, but now he was hot on my heels. His sharp claws tore at my sides, and blood was trailing behind me. Panic set in, and I ran. It was almost slow motion as I ran right past the young water buffalo we had passed just moments before. Water surrounded us, and I couldn't bring myself to cross. I kept looking for a way out without crossing. I could now hear a lioness close behind me, her claws tearing at me. She was fast and much scarier than the lion we had run into earlier. All I could do was zigzag and hope she missed her attacks, blood still trailing behind me from the gashes along my sides. My legs starting to tire, my heart beating fast. I was hopeful when things got quiet and I couldn't hear the lioness behind me anymore. Still, I ran, making sure the lion had, in fact, stopped her pursuit. The blood had also stopped dripping from my wounds. I stopped to catch my breath and look over to see Khazro running at me. I was hoping she had lost the lions too, and for a moment, it looked like she had. The lions attacked again, and we ran. Thankfully, I found the opening so we wouldn't be trapped by water, and I hoped Khazro was close behind me. I zigged and zagged as I ran and ran, right into another male lion, just what we needed. As we ran, I could hear Khazro's hooves behind me and the lions still trying to attack. My legs were so tired, and I was out of breath. I thought for sure this was the end of us. I couldn't run for much longer. As we fled through the tall brush and came out the other side, I had to stop running. I had no choice. I couldn't breathe or run any longer. As I looked back, sure the lions would appear out of the brush at any moment to end my life, my heart racing. The lions were gone. Khazro had made it around the rock wall edge, and I mustered up the last of my strength to join up with her. I was still sure the lions would find us and attack again. However, I had no strength left, and neither did Khazro. We both collapsed, resting as much as we could before we had to run again. As soon as we were able to stand and run again, we were back up. We wanted to put some distance between us and the lions. Both of us were also in need of healing plants that would help heal our wounds, so we headed out to find some. Khazro knew where some were, but it was a ways away, so we started our long journey. It was extremely risky going down that rocky edge, but we took our chances. We spotted another rhino, and we both wondered if it was the same aggressive one we had seen a while back. Khazro and I were both thrilled to see a patch of the greatest tasting food on our way to the healing plants. Neither of us had eaten anything since the start of the day, and we were both very hungry. We both filled our bellies and continued on our way. As we arrived in the valley that is filled full of healing plants, we spotted the last thing we were wanting to spot. More lions. As I seen one running towards me, I didn't stick around to see what their intentions were. I simply ran. Already tired from our journey here, and low on health from our previous lion encounter, we were in no shape to survive another. I ran a ways up, and the lion gave up its attack pretty quickly. I stopped to try and catch my breath and rest while I could, seeing if Khazro was okay. I looked over just in time to see Khazro leaping over the hill towards me with lions in pursuit. However, they all stopped their chase right after. These lions confused me. Were they really trying to attack us, or just playing a game of scare the kudu? I just kept my eyes on them while I caught my breath, and would run if any of them came towards me. One did come towards us, so we ran, but again they quickly turned around. I kept running till I leapt over a small rock wall looking thing and decided I needed to really rest. I wasn't sure what these lions were planning. I just knew I didn't have the energy to survive if they truly did attack. Once I was fully rested, I got up to join Khazro. They had seen some healing plants down below and went to eat some. As I walked towards Khazro, I walked straight into the lions. I didn't waste any time noping right out of that situation. Finally, Khazro and I were both at the healing plants and eating as much as we could to heal ourselves. And this is the end of my story, at least for now. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that story. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed hearing the story from the animal's point of view better, and if you'd like to see a part 2. Thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging with me. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and consider subscribing. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, bye-bye!